Wealth at its core is it's the power to delight the senses and completely satisfy the soul.
Right. It's not just, numbers on a page.
Exactly. It is the raw, unadulterated power to decorate your home with exquisite furnishings, to travel across unknown seas, taste rare foods from afar, buy fine crafts, and even build massive temples. Welcome to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are translating the ancient wisdom of Babylon for you. We're specifically looking at some translated excerpts that map out the road to gold and ultimately personal freedom.
And, looking at these ancient texts against the backdrop of historical cityscapes and early star charts, the sheer age of the material really stands out. We are dissecting parables that are literally thousands of years old.
Thousands of years old, yeah. But they carry this immediate, urgent weight. So, okay, let's unpack this. The source material opens with that bold claim I just mentioned, that wealth is power.
Yeah, it immediately reframes the whole conversation.
Right. We aren't just looking at an archaic financial manual here. We're looking at a comprehensive philosophy of living fully. Our mission today is to extract the foundational mechanisms of wealth building and discipline from these stories and figure out how they apply directly to your modern life.
And the author of the text actually anticipates the skepticism of the modern reader perfectly.
Oh, totally.
Because anyone living in a fast-paced, highly technological era might easily dismiss the advice of ancient elders. You'd think, what could someone from a Bronze Age civilization possibly teach me about a digital economy?
I mean, it's a fair question.
It is. But the text grounds the reader with this beautiful concept called the sun analogy.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, it points out that the sun shining in today's sky is the exact same sun that shone on the day your father was born.
Wow.
And it is the same sun that will shine on the day your youngest grandchild passes away. The technology changes, the marketplaces evolve, but human nature, truth, doesn't age.
It really doesn't. That tracks perfectly. The mechanics of human behavior just remain static. So if the wisdom of acquiring wealth is timeless, the obvious starting point is filtering the noise, right?
Absolutely.
According to the text, the very first step toward building wealth isn't about working grueling hours. It's actually about who you listen to, overriding our own cognitive biases.
Right. Curation of input is your first line of defense. In any era, opinions are just the cheapest commodity available.
So true.
The text introduces a highly specific rule for this. If you want advice on jewels, you go to a jeweler. If you want to know about sheep, you go to a shepherd.
Which seems so obvious, right? It's like asking a plumber to fix your laptop. You just wouldn't do it.
No, of course not.
Yet people constantly take financial advice from friends who are completely broke.
Yeah, it's wild. And the source issues a very stark warning about that exact phenomenon. It argues that taking advice about your savings from someone who is ignorant of money means you will inevitably lose your savings just to prove they're heirs.
Ugh.
You are literally subsidizing their ignorance with your hard-earned capital.
Wow, subsidizing their ignorance. That cognitive dissonance is exactly why the text pivots from who you listen to how you behave. It introduces this framework, the 7 tools loved by gold, and the 5 laws of gold and happiness.
Right, the mechanics.
And the absolute foundational baseline of this Rule 1 is paying yourself first. The mandate is to save at least 1/10 of your income for your family and your future.
And the psychological shift required to execute that is, it's profound.
How so?
Well, when you spend every single coin you earn, you are essentially working for the butcher, the baker, the merchant. You're enriching everyone else's household while leaving your own empty.
Oh, that's a harsh way to look at it, but so true.
Yeah. By sequestering that 1/10 immediately,
Yeah.
you transition from a consumer to an owner. Gold happily comes to those who do this. It frames saving not as a punishment, but as this magnetic attraction.
But, okay, once you stop the bleeding and sequester that 10th, you immediately face the psychological torment of the marketplace. Rule 2 is prioritizing desires.
Which is so hard.
So hard, especially today. I mean, the friction of the marketplace was real back then, but today we have the entire global marketplace sitting in our pockets.
Right, one-click shopping.
Exactly. Prioritizing means acknowledging scarcity. You cannot have everything. Some desires just have to go unfulfilled so your wealth can actually take root.
Which transitions us perfectly to Rule 3, from the defensive posture of saving to the offensive strategy of multiplying. What's fascinating here is the shepherd analogy they use.
Tell us about that.
So a wise owner understands that locking gold in a dark vault to gather dust is just a waste of its potential. They find profitable employment for their gold, making it multiply like a vast flock of sheep in a field.
So your capital should be out there grazing, breeding, and compounding.
Exactly. Making it work for you.
It's the ancient equivalent of compound interest, you know? Instead of the money sitting dead, every coin becomes an employee working the night shift for you.
That's a great way to put it.
And then Rule 4 mandates owning your home and ensuring your future income.
Right, creating that fortress of stability. Paying rent indefinitely is just a permanent hemorrhage of your resources. By owning your home, you cap your housing expenses.
Which frees up even more of your daily income to become part of that flock of golden sheep.
Precisely.
And that stability gives you the bandwidth for Rule 5, which might be the most crucial: investing in yourself, making yourself your greatest capital.
Oh, absolutely. If the engine is neglected, the whole system grinds to a halt.
Right. Before you pour resources into complex external markets, you have to upgrade your own skills.
The greater your skill, the greater your yield.
Yeah, but, knowing these rules is easy. It's a 5-minute intellectual exercise. But keeping the gold requires defense and immense willpower. How does the text actually define willpower?
Well, it defines willpower in a way that just strips away all of our modern self-help jargon. It calls it an unwavering determination to complete a self-imposed duty.
Unwavering determination. I love that.
Yeah, it completely removes emotion from the equation. It's not about waiting for a surge of motivation. It is strictly about keeping a promise to yourself.
And to illustrate this, they have this pebble analogy, right? Which is this fascinating behavioral experiment.
Yes, the pebble.
So the text says, imagine you commit to throwing a pebble into the river from a specific bridge for 100 days. If you establish that self-imposed duty, you execute it, period.
Right, because you are building the muscle of self-trust. You're training your brain to recognize that your internal word is absolute law.
But wait, I have to push back on this for a second.
Okay, sure.
We are human. What if you're halfway across the bridge on day 7 and you realize you completely forgot to grab a pebble? The natural response is to say, it's just a rock, I'll throw 2 tomorrow. It's the exact same net result.
See, that specific rationalization is where the entire architecture of willpower collapses.
Really?
The text explicitly warns against that trap. You do not throw 2 tomorrow. You turn around, walk back off the bridge, find a pebble, and execute today's duty today.
Wow. No exceptions.
No exceptions. And on day 20, when the novelty is worn off, you don't declare it useless and just throw a handful of gravel into the water to be done with it.
Because the moment you negotiate with the duty,
You lose.
Yeah.
Exactly. The danger of self-negotiation is total. If your commitment to a meaningless pebble is flexible, your commitment to saving 1/10 of your income will be flexible the second a new luxury catches your eye.
that makes perfect sense, which makes the author's confession later in the text so brilliant.
The lazy secret.
Yes. After laying down this hardcore, uncompromising law, the author admits they deliberately avoid taking on impossible or overly difficult tasks because they are, quote, lazy at heart.
I love that. It shows profound self-awareness. Setting realistic systems is infinitely better than relying on brute force discipline.
Exactly. They accommodate their own human nature by keeping the daily duty simple, but making the execution of it absolute. It's not about doing impossible things. It's about doing simple things with impossible consistency.
Which is key, because acquiring the gold is only the offense. Guarding it is the defense.
Right. And we see people today lose wealth to get rich quick scams all the time.
Oh, constantly. The text drops a rather blunt axiom here. A small caution prevents a great regret. And it says, without adequate defense, people simply cannot survive.
So how does gold flee according to the laws?
Well, there are a few very specific vulnerabilities. First, investing in unfamiliar trades.
Right. If you don't understand it, you're gambling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second, going against the advice of wise handlers.
Like we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Third, forcing impossible returns. If an investment promises a yield that defies the standard laws of the marketplace, it's almost certainly a trap.
Obviously. And the tricksters with their sweet temptations.
Right. And finally, blindly trusting your own inexperienced romance or fantasies about a venture. When you fall in love with the idea of an investment, you stop looking at the cold, hard math.
You just see what you want to see. So, okay, this raises an immense amount of rigorous discipline. You filter your advice, sequester 1/10 of your income, put capital on the night shift, defend it with daily willpower.
This raises an important question, though.
What's that?
If you successfully execute every rule, build this wealth, and guard it fiercely, what is the ultimate goal?
It's not just a fat purse of coins, is it?
No, not at all. The end goal is cultivating a free soul.
Ah, the free soul versus the slave soul. The text unpacks this so well. It argues that a person with a slave soul, regardless of their noble birth or family name, will always flow to the bottom like water.
Because their internal lack of discipline dictates their external reality.
Exactly. But a person with a free soul, even if they're struck by terrible misfortune, like losing everything, they will become an honorable, highly respected person in their hometown.
Because the true wealth resides in the character. The material gold is merely a byproduct.
Right. So how does one cultivate that free soul, especially when circumstances are tough?
The key is your relationship with labor.
Work.
Yes, work. The text warns vehemently against treating labor as an enemy. If you view your daily work as a curse, you are actively nurturing a slave soul. You have to treat labor as your best friend.
Okay, let's use the building analogy from the source to explain
Oh,
this.
that's a perfect one.
So imagine you are trying to build a magnificent house. While you're building it, you shouldn't complain that the stones are heavy or that the well for mixing plaster is too far away.
Right, because those heavy stones and that long walk are the exact raw materials required to construct the magnificent structure.
Complaining about the friction is complaining about the creation of your masterpiece. It's about not viewing work purely as a time-for-money transaction. It's literally a gym for your character.
That's a great way to frame it. Every frustrating problem you solve is actively building the muscles of a free soul.
But the text pushes this concept into territory that really challenges modern sensibilities.
Right, aggressively so. It advises you to work as hard as you can for your mastery, which translates today to your employer, your clients, your customers,
Even if they don't recognize everything you do.
even if you feel entirely underappreciated.
Which directly contradicts the whole modern act your wage mentality. Why advocate for maximum effort with zero recognition?
Because the text understands the locus of control. It argues that well-done labor ultimately benefits the worker, not the master.
Wait, really? How?
Because the act of engaging in high-quality, disciplined work fundamentally transforms the person executing it. It makes you a higher-quality human being. Your excellence belongs entirely to you. As the text says, where there's determination, a way opens.
Where there's determination, a way opens. That brings us right back to the premise that wealth is power. And to wrap this up, there's one standout quote from the source.
Action attracts the goddess of luck.
Yes. Luck favors the prepared, and it favors those in motion. Exactly. Luck is magnetically drawn to the person who is out there throwing the pebble every single day, carrying the heavy stones without complaint. So, let's distill the takeaways for you today.
Yeah, let's sum it up.
Seek advice only from true experts. Save a tenth of what you earn. Guard against scams and your own inexperience. Treat your willpower like a daily pebble, keeping it simple but uncompromising. And finally, make labor your greatest friend. Let the heavy stones build your character.
Those principles map the timeless road to both gold and internal freedom. And, to leave you with something to examine in your own life today, I want to build on that concept of the free soul.
Okay, let's hear it.
The text promises that a free soul commands respect even in misfortune. So ask yourself this: if every ounce of your material gold was stripped away tomorrow by bad luck, how much true wealth would you still possess purely in your skills, your work ethic, and the quality of your character?
Wow. We will leave you to audit your own free soul with that thought. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Babylon. We'll catch you next time.